Apple announced their newest lineup for the baseline iPads, increasing their price from $330 to $450 USD, a substantial increase in just a year. And it really got me thinking about the role that tablets like the iPad have in our lives. Tablets are in this weird middle ground right now. Are they big cell phones? Are they small laptops? What the hell is the point of tablets in 2022? To try to get some insight into the matter, I asked my friends what they do with their tablets, and the results were pretty shocking. I learned that 90% of them have not even purchased a new tablet in the last 5 years, and if they did have one, most of them never used them. The ones who did use them regularly had some pretty similar answers. They lived on their couch. Their iPads pretty much never left their homes and would be used exclusively for media consumption. Netflix, Kindle, manga, Spotify, web browsing, light mobile gaming. Basically just a way to get a quick access to a bigger screen than their phone. With the release of the 12.9-inch iPad Pros in recent years and the Apple Pencil, I've seen more and more people use an iPad as their exclusive art creation device. In the past, you would have to have a full-blown computer and an expensive digital drawing surface that couldn't be used for anything other than drawing. But Apple has reduced that overhead to a single tablet and a pen. And with the introduction of amazing art creation software like Procreate on iPadOS, it's easy to see why this is the case. I'm sure you've noticed that I have only been referencing Apple tablets and not even mentioned Android tablets like the Samsung Galaxy Tab, and there's a very good reason for that. They are light years behind. Apple has such a dominating grasp on the tablet market in 2022, owning over of all tablets being sold. The only other two companies who are even close is Amazon with 13% and Samsung with 20%. Let's be honest though, the Amazon tablets are just low-spec devices for children, and the Samsung tablets that are actually good are few and far between. We can blame it on the Android software not being well optimized for tablets, or we can blame it on the fact that it's difficult for hardware manufacturers to make devices with an operating system they didn't create. Whatever the reason, when people think tablet, they think Apple. And while full laptop replacement tablets do exist, such as the Microsoft Surface, they are held behind because they are running Windows, which despite making huge leaps in the area, still hasn't optimized their touch experience. Steve Jobs announced the first generation iPad in 2010. This new device donned a 9.7-inch screen size and a $500 price tag. Now, upon release, the iPad was incredibly well received, selling over 15 million units within its lifespan. $500 in 2010 for a basic iPad seems like a large price to pay and more of a niche product. But let's think about why it sold that well. In the same year the iPad was released, the newest iPhone was the iPhone 4, the base model launching at $600 with a 3.5-inch low pixel density screen. Yikes. I don't know if you guys remember the iPhone 4, but reading websites on it and consuming media was an absolute chore. In 2010, if you told me I could get a device with triple the screen realty for $100 less than my phone, that's a no-brainer. People still weren't used to reading on small displays yet, as only 20% of the US population even owned a smartphone at that point, and even far lower than that worldwide. If you had a phone that looked like this, and then a lightweight, large screen device at home to easily watch the newest Jersey Shore episode, yeah, it made a lot of sense. Over the years though, we've seen dozens of companies make competing Android tablets, never really grabbing a sizable chunk of the market. Meanwhile, Apple has continuously done almost yearly upgrades to their base iPad, and later introduced an entire family of tablets that range wildly in storage, speed, size, and price. Literally no matter what you want out of a tablet, Apple has a device for you. Apple had been pricing their base iPad for many years at that steady $500 and then later $600 price point, but then shocked the world in 2018 when they announced their baseline iPad was going to be released at $330 US, nearly half the cost of the previous generation's cheapest iPad. This was insane pricing and an obvious strategy from Apple. This is also around the same time when Apple announced their budget-friendly line of iPhones, the iPhone SE. They wanted to hook in budget-oriented people into their low-cost devices, get them stuck in the Apple ecosystem, then have them buy their premium products in a few years. Quite the brilliant play, and it has worked out nicely for them. This base iPad price has finally changed after 4 years, increasing to $450, but coming with a major redesign and increase of screen fidelity, among other upgrades. With this huge price increase to their cheapest device, we need a deep dive into what people are even doing with tablets and if Apple even deserves such a huge portion of our portable devices. With something like 80% of consumers never taking their iPad out of their home, we need to think about what the other 20% are doing with their iPads and why are they so popular. Let's start with students. An iPad paired with an Apple Pencil is an amazing note-taking device. It allows the physical writing for better cognitive learning and memorization, but also the digital preservation of your notes. When paired with a keyboard, an iPad is fully capable of writing essays and doing research. It can be used for digital textbooks, watching your professor's lectures, and accessing your school's online portal, all within a lightweight device that can fit into any bag or purse. Not bad. So for a student like this, what advantage does a laptop have? I guess there's no chance of you forgetting your keyboard attachment. Laptops are more powerful for intense workflows for some students like engineering and video editing, cheaper internal storage expansion, and also more options outside of iPadOS. So yes, there is a use case for some students to have a traditional laptop over an iPad. Of all the people I spoke to, it was the youngest of the bunch who told me they would be okay with switching out their laptop for an iPad exclusively. And looking past price points and metrics, it's easy to see why. Young people grew up on smartphones. They would much rather navigate a device with a touchscreen that resembles their phones than fiddle around with a mouse on a device using the operating system their dad uses in his den. On their iPhones and iPads, young people are shooting and creating TikToks, editing their selfies, creating memes, and even mixing full-blown music albums. The average young consumer doesn't need or care about more power. They want something familiar that is able to do everything they want to do. Now, even though they didn't ask for it, Apple gave it to them. For some reason, Apple thought it was smart to take their big and powerful new ARM-based M1 and M2 chips they use in their desktop computers and MacBook Pros and put it into their slim iPad Pro and iPad Airs. I mean, shout out to Apple for being able to pull this off without completely overheating or overpricing their high-end tablet devices, but many people think it's a bit overkill, considering most people use their iPads for easy media consumption. But I think Apple had a different strategy here. As the gap between cell phone and tablet expands, the gap between tablet and laptop grows closer every day. Apple wants to envision a world where people are forced to buy laptops and tablets, just as they used to buy tablets and cell phones. This is one of the many reasons why most people believe that Apple has never put touch capabilities on any of their MacBook devices, despite even some of the cheapest Windows laptops having this feature for many years. Apple doesn't want people to use their iPads as laptops. They want people to buy iPads and laptops. In the years since the iPad's release, cell phones have gotten really good, and they have such an insane variety of specs and prices that it was hard for iPads to compete as a tertiary device to them in recent years. It made sense in 2010 that your iPad was triple the size and more powerful than your phone, but in 2022, going into 2023, the average iPad shares similar power specs to their flagship devices and only has about double the screen size to the average phone. But it's not all about specs and screen size. Phone software has gotten more optimized. The general public is totally cool with reading and using small devices like cell phones now, especially young people. Many of them grew up with only having a single smartphone and no other devices. Software developers have kind of cracked the code on how we use our phones and how to best deliver data and content to us, no matter the size of the device. Speaking personally, I only recently made the switch to Apple devices, so I never considered purchasing an iPad until recently. I grew up in the 90s, so I am attached to laptops and my Windows desktop computer. For my personal device, I simply purchased a 9th generation base iPad. I already have a laptop and a desktop, so this cheap iPad variant does everything I need it to. If I didn't have a laptop, I would probably end up buying an iPad Air or an iPad Pro, the ones with the powerful M1 chip in it. Do I really need an iPad with an M1 chip in it? No, probably not. But iPads are extremely good at keeping their longevity and value. Most people I know who have iPads are still using ones from 6+ years ago and are completely happy with that experience. I'm a bit of a power user when it comes to consumer electronics, and if I'm going to keep this for years to come as a secondary device, it would be a better value investment to get the better chip. But that is kind of Apple's play with their iPad pricing, isn't it? Their iPads are also closely priced. It seems like any upgrade from one device to the next is just a little more money. Let's go over a common example that an average user would make. Now let's say you are a student and you're in the market for an iPad to take to class. You know you won't be doing much on it outside of light media consumption, taking notes, and doing homework. The base iPad is $450 now, and while that is a big increase from the previous version, you feel that the redesign is worth it and you're going to keep this for a long time, so it'll be worth it. But that $450 is only for the 64 gig variant. Heck, your phone already uses 100 gigabytes of space and you don't even use it for homework assignments. And plus, you're going to keep this for a while, so you might as well future-proof it and get a little more storage. But the only step up is to a 256 gig variant, and that comes out to $600. Okay, well, it's a little more expensive, but it'll be worth it because future-proof and all that. But then you see the iPad Air. It's also $600, but it comes with the super powerful M1 chip and has support for the second gen Apple Pencil, a feature missing from the base iPad. Wow, a laptop capable CPU in an iPad for the same price? Sign me up. But the base iPad Air only has 64 gigs of storage. And again, the only storage jump is to 256 gigs for $750. But the base iPad Pro starts at only $50 more, and it comes with 128 gigs of storage, a 120 Hz screen, and the powerful M2 chip with a bunch of new features. You think to yourself, okay, well, I'll get the iPad Pro base model for $800 and add an Apple Pencil for $130 more. Well, I'll need to type on it too, so I need the Magic Keyboard. That's another $250 to $300, but it's okay. This is gonna replace my laptop. I'll be able to do everything with it, and it will last me 10 years. I'm future-proofing. What originally was going to be a $450 purchase quickly became a $1,300 plus purchase because of those small marginal gaps in between the iPad models. Throw in a surplus of seemingly mandatory accessories, you've got a real problem on your hands. I've seen people on Twitter literally getting stressed out about choosing which iPad they are going to choose because for such a big purpose, they don't want to make the wrong choice and regret it. And to complicate things further, for that $1,300, you can now buy the base MacBook Pro instead, which comes with tons of ports like HDMI for when you give class presentations, MagSafe charging just to be safe, and you'll never leave your keyboard behind when you head to the library to write a paper. And thus the cycle begins anew. But now you've left the world of iPads and now entering MacBook land, where the prices go well up above $4,000. Tablets are just in a weird space right now. People either find them extremely useful and critical for their day-to-day work, or just something they keep next to their couch when they want a bigger screen for a bit. This device that has been out for 12 years might finally be coming to a crossroads of becoming the future of laptop replacements, or fading into obscurity. If you're thinking that it would be impossible for iPads to just stop being made and people forget about them, remember what happened to iPods? At one point, iPods and MP3 players were the most sought after device and something that could be justified in every single person's everyday carry. But the moment the first smartphone released, and then later with the advent of music streaming, thus started the slow descent and eventual discontinuation. So what does the future hold for tablets? Well, thinking wishfully, I hope we find some manufacturers rise up against Apple to make a great tablet competitor that is accurately priced. But that probably won't happen as so many companies have tried and failed, and they'd rather not invest money into 12-year-old technology. Okay, well, maybe Apple starts selling really budget iPads, like $200 or something, and maybe even market them towards kids, right? Get them red hot for Apple before they even pick up their first Chromebook in school. Or just axe the iPad entirely and just make a MacBook Pro that has a detachable keyboard and a touchscreen like literally every other manufacturer has had for 10 plus years. And bundle it with the Apple Pencil, come on. Well, one thing is for sure, iPads are not dead. For now.